Welcome to Radio Free Will. I'm your host, George McCullen. This is a podcast for sovereign people. Sorry we missed last week, folks, but it was Labor Day and we wanted to celebrate the labor of all peoples. And joining me again today is Michelle Mockers, artist, activist, and philosopher. Michelle, how are you doing today?
Not too bad, George, not too bad.
Good. The big news of the week is that the military has now announced that it's going to, they're going to determine what is fake news and what is not. How does that make you feel, Michelle? Can the military tell you what is fake news and what is not?
No, the military should not do that at all. The military is the military at the service, supposedly, of the state, and that's it. It's not the military to give us ideas about this or that.
Well, all I know is all my life, I didn't experience World War II, but all my life, the military has done nothing but lie all the time. It lied us into Vietnam, it lied us into the Iraq War, probably lied us into the Afghani War. And so for them to tell me what is truthful and what is not is...
Absolutely. No, it doesn't stand. It doesn't stand 1 minute. The military tells you what they want you or would like you to believe or to see. That's it. And in doing that, they defend themselves and they defend their actions, which led to the military. It's military actions. It's not intelligent actions. It's military actions.
Right. And when they drop leaflets onto populations, what's that? It's just propaganda.
Absolutely.
So that's very disturbing news. I don't think it's gotten as much play in the news as it should be. I think it warrants a real eye-opening situation that every American should be disturbed about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that was the big news.
Yeah, that's a big news. It's a big news because it can condition the future. You know, the army always condition the future with all their thoughts. You know, we are not at war like the World War II, you know, that's something else. But even about that, they tell a lot of stories which are not true. We were not true.
Right.
So, you know, so when you really, really know the truth, you can see that, you know, I don't know if I told you already the military, my experience of the military. I maybe told you that. I'm afraid to repeat myself. Is those bunch of trucks turning. Did I tell you that? They were turning empty trucks, no driver, no nothing. The engine were turning. So I questioned whether the officer who was in charge, supposedly, or that, and said, why are they turning? Come on, there is nobody, nothing. He said, oh, sir, you don't know that if we don't spend the gas this month that we are allowed to spend, we will not have it next month. So they don't care about your money, your whatever. Who cares? Yeah. The military doesn't care about you, my dear.
It's their money. That's the way they think.
Yeah.
And we're spending it's getting close to $1 trillion a year on the military.
No, it's more than half the budget of the country. For what? Tell me for what?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Except to allow the president to say, if you don't do what I want, I have all the army in my back.
So this podcast wants to bring about a better world, right?
Yeah.
And so we're looking forward to people sending in their comments on how they would like to see a better world. But I know that we skipped a couple weeks on your plan of action on what the general rules for the positive dialectic on how we should run the world. Do you remember where we left off at?
George, you talk about the army because the army is one of the most important things. In fact, it's the most defensive things in the country. They spend more money than the rest of the country. So we could eventually have some consideration for the army. The army is the disaster of the world. Since they are world, there is a world, and since I've said the modern man, it's, and modern, when I say modern, history that has been recorded. Before it was not recorded. Let's say 5,500 years about. When you look at the whole history of humanity through those 5,000 years, it's permanently war. Man is permanently at war. Instead of being at peace, cultivating, indulging himself, enjoying himself, no, at war. For one reason or another one, the neighbor is always the neighbor, and we will fight him. It's that since 5,000 years. It's exactly the same thing, and we, in 2020, we do exactly like we were doing, 50,000 years ago. In other words, all our leaders, for me, they have no mind. They are back 50,000 years back. They are not intelligent. They cannot see that the earth is something else than to fight. They cannot see that. For them, the fighting is the final point. The army, an army is to do for what? To fight. Huh?
Yeah.
Nothing else. So you have to give the army the occasion to fight once in a while.
Can't they fight amongst themselves? Do they have to put me in the middle of it?
Yeah, they could fight against themselves if they disagree between themselves. Like that, they would shut up and we would not hear of them, if they were fighting against themselves. But they will take your money, nevertheless, to fight.
Yeah, I can understand having a military for defense, but we're in the 21st
For defense
century.
of what? For defense? No. This is precisely the thing that I am against. For defense of what? Defense of your own opinion or your own whatever it is that do not take care of the opinion or whatever it is of the others. So instead of getting along together, no, you fight to impose your own ideas. I disagree entirely with that.
Right, and then so the military is going to come along and say, we determine what the truth is.
Yeah.
So that means I do not have an opinion anymore?
No, absolutely not. That's the military. If you want to know the truth, you have to go to the military, my dear. They will tell you the truth.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to stop this.
They'll never tell the truth. The military, for the whole history, has never tell the truth. Never did. You can take absolutely all the wars, and even the wars of the, 17, 18, close war, if you want. They have no pretext. When you look at the pretext of 1914, there is absolutely no pretext. It's a question of family. It's a feud between family members. No more than that. And that feud between few people caused something like 18, at that time, 11 million men. Something like that. For what? For nothing at all. Two families fighting together. They cannot get together alone. So that is the reason for the wars. We disagree with this one say or say, so we must impose our own way of doing things. Forget it. The only thing that should be possible for the very first time, because don't forget one thing, my dear. Scientists say that the world, the earth as it is basically comfortable, no problem with 5 billion people. And we are going to be 10 billion people, with all the conflicts between 10 billion instead of 5 billions. So listen, the world is completely upside down. So if the world doesn't get in a better way, that's the end of it. We are going to destroy humanity, one way or another one. Too many people, and with the artificial intelligence and robots, we can do the job of people. What are you going to do with 10 billion people? Tell me whether you are going to feed them, what they are going to do with those 10 billion people.
Well, I think the Earth can take care of 10 billion people. I think it could probably take care of a lot more than that.
It's not for sure.
It's not for sure.
It's not, according to the scientists, that is not for sure. That is not for sure because there is a limit to what you can produce, my dear.
I don't even know if there's, 8 8 billion
Actually, we
people
are
on the.
close to 8 billion people, but
Yeah.
we are supposed to go to 10 billion before the middle of the next century or something like that.
And how do we know that that's true? I don't know that that's true. I'm just being told that that's
No,
true.
if you take every country, according to every country, the number of people, and you put them together, we reach that number, about that number.
It's really hard to believe because there does seem to be there's 300 million in America, and supposedly, and I don't know, it doesn't look all that crowded here.
Oh yeah, but it's a vast country. It's a large country. Excuse me. Territorially speaking, it's a big. And what about Canada then? There are 20 million people, something like that. And it's an enormous country, but it's a little too cold. But it's an enormous country.
So they could take a couple more people.
Oh, come on, they could double their population. Easy. Don't tell them that. They would kill you if you tell that. You see the problem. You see basically the problem. That is the problem. What you say, if I say, I would kill you, to shut up, to close your mouth.
So one of the ways to make the world a better place is that people become moral people.
Listen, nicer people, more gentle to each other. Instead of considering the guy as an enemy, no, try to make peace with him.
Yeah, well, this is what I had been thinking about since our last podcast. Are people born moral?
Yeah.
Are they? I'm asking. I wanted to get your response to that.
Listen, dear. People are born. I should say they are born nice. They have children. They don't want their children to be. They want to be nice with. They want to be nice with the whole family. They want to be nice. People want to be nice, but the army will tell you the information that makes that you are going to get mad against this or that, and that's it. It's over.
Yeah, the power structure rules by fear. The positive dialectic does not rule by fear.
No.
But to get back to my question, are people, like when a baby comes out of the womb, is it a moral person?
Yeah, I suppose so, yes. Why not? Tell me why not.
So they're taught to be not moral.
Well, a question of education, you mean. It's always... You are not educated to be nice with other people. Usually, when you have your education, it's the education of the country. It was your country, the history of your country, and the war of your countries, and you have all that. So you are, in some ways, if I go to my personal education, what I say is the truth, because I learn, that I'm French, so I learned the history of France, all the wars of France, all the city of France, and everything you want, but about France. But I didn't learn, I learned something else, but it was, Greek and Romans. But they are dead. They are dead since centuries. We forget that the Greeks invented everything, and that we have today, even Hollywood, depends on the Greeks. It's made by the Greeks. In 2 centuries, they invented absolutely everything. Theater, literature, Olympic Games, everything. But you learn that. But you do not learn. When I was learning, I never learned something about Germany, or about Italy, or about America. I learned about France. And if you go to, I'm sure if you go to school in America, you learn about America, and that's it. You don't learn, in other words, to be nice with other people. You don't learn that there are other people in the world, and those other people are exactly like you, and they would like to be nice rather than fighting. That's the big truth, You will be nice rather than fighting.
So you think people are born with the innate ability to be nice?
Absolutely, why not? You are nice with everybody. You are nice with everybody. You are nice with your wife. You are nice with your children. You are nice with your friends. You are nice with the family. You
Well,
are nice with
sometimes it
everybody.
depends how I wake
Oh, well,
up in the morning.
of course, you can have some family problems. Yeah, there are problems everywhere. But why solve the problems between nations with arms instead of blah blah blah, and instead of concessions, instead of finding out how we could get along with this one or this one?
So I imagine they fight. People fight, solve their problems through fighting, because that's the best way for them to get their way.
Yeah.
And what is it about wanting to get your way that that's in these folks? They have to have their way. I know I get upset when I don't get my way, but eventually I go, oh, okay.
Yeah, but no. You have to analyze what is your way. Why your way? And why do you want to impose your way? So you have to know exactly what you are doing with the others when you want to impose your way. And you have to know who they are, what they think, and otherwise we fight. If we don't talk, we fight. We don't talk, we fight.
And I suppose if you can't settle differences, then if you're in part of this country, you just have to live with the fact that you can't agree with that other country.
The thing, my dear, is that eventually you have to make some sacrifices. You have to do it. You have to contribute. You have to give some of yourself, and that is specifically that we don't do here. We are the richest country in the world, and period. That's it. Huh? So we have to communicate, and we have to eventually be a little less selfish and make eventually some sacrifices that you have to do to be well with somebody else.
So diplomacy becomes an art form.
Yeah.
For you to be able to come to an agreement with somebody that you have a big disagreement with.
And it's where I quote the dialectic of the art. There is no contradiction. Even if you have a big disagreement, there is no contradiction. There is some opposition, but those two viewpoints have something in common. You can search for it. That is always true. There is no negative thing between two people. There is always some positive that you can start with. Even if it's small, you can start with that. And that we don't do. We just say, hey, this is our viewpoint, and you accept it or not, period. That's it. And this is where I say, no, that's not true, because the contrary people, the contrary opposition, whatever you want, has something true in itself. And you must try to put those two things true together to build something. Otherwise, forget it. We war. We have the army.
So the United States is trying to gear up for a war with Venezuela. The United States does not agree with its politics. Personally, I'm a little more sympathetic to Venezuela, but they obviously want the oil of Venezuela. So how would the positive dialectic come to an agreement with?
My dear, because the people, the leaders and all that, I go back. Why the whole story of Indochina? Why? Because the French, at that time, we are the big conquerors, conquered the country over there. And why? Because the trees were producing rubber for the automobiles. At that time, there was no such mix that they are today, plastic, whatever you want. So the rubber was the most important thing for the automobiles if you want to run on something. So they took that because the trees were producing rubber. And why did the American came after that? For what? For what? Because it was becoming communist? Forget it. Besides that, you forget something, that you don't fight ideas with guns. That's a wrong idea. Even if the idea finally has gun because you have gun, but you don't fight ideas with guns. And we have never been able, so far, to propose an idea that would be an ID without guns. Never did. For the first
The
time.
United States.
United States. Oh, not only United States. I'm talking with France. We are not completely out of. Excuse me. We have a lot. Look at the whole history of Napoleon and all that. You know, we were in Italy all the time. What were we doing in Italy all the time? We were King of Naples. It was a Frenchman, King of Naples. It was not an Italian, it was a Frenchman. Why?
So the French invented pizza?
Yeah, you know. No, that's the American who invented it, not the Italian. You know that?
No, not at all.
Brooklyn. The pizza was born in Brooklyn, not born in Italy. Now the Italian have the pizza from Brooklyn.
Wow. Well, but they must have had like flatbread stuff or whatever that looked like a pizza.
No. Pizza is pizza. So you see, I come back to the idea that, in fact, we're fighting when we could. Instead of fighting, we should find an agreement. Fighting for an agreement. Instead of fighting for guns, fighting for an agreement, which eventually will ask you, and that's where it's very difficult to make an effort and eventually to make some sacrifices, you know, to give something out of yourself. Sometimes it's not easy, even if it's money or whatever it is. It's not easy to give to the others. We have a tendency to keep for ourselves. The country is and the other country, they can do what they want. But to discuss and to try to have some point of agreement and to build on that, that is the whole idea, which has never been put in practice. When you look at the whole history, the details of history, it has never been put in practice. Never did. The only practice was to go and with a gun.
You see the world transitioning to a green economy, getting off of fossil fuels and stuff like that. Will that diminish war when everybody has their own power supplies?
No, the diminishing war is a question of mind, my dear, not a question of vegetables. It's basically a question of mind. People have to make their mind that we must do something else than war. We can go out, we can find agreements, and we can work out on agreements instead of fighting. That's the big idea. Vegetables or no vegetables, whatever. The behavior of man. And so far, once more, in recorded history, the behavior of man is aggression. And that should not be. That's aggression because the leader will declare war and you will be obliged to go to the war.
So that's the next evolution of human beings, is no war.
No war. No war. Try to survive nicely as human beings. And to help those who cannot, you have those who have too much and those who do not have enough, my dear. And the basic things of comes out of the dialectic of the art is to say, I take the example of a painting, you get the society is a painting, you don't paint on the wall on top of the painting or the wall under the painting, and it is what happens. You have people, in America, it's very well known, the 1%, which is 10%, who practically own the country. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I heard a statistic that Bernie Sanders said, and nobody disputed him, so I'm assuming that it's true, but he said 3 people in the United States owns more wealth than like 90%.
Oh yes, absolutely. The
3.
1%, my dear, the 1%.
Well, that's more than 1%.
Owns more than anybody else in America. And you believe that those people don't say and don't interfere and don't with their money? And the 10%, they own, I believe, 40% of the country, something like that. The 50% of the no pennies, the 50% of the population owns 0.2 of the country. 50% of the people own only 0,2 of the country. That's it. So is that acceptable? So you believe that the people who, those 10 people over there, they don't have what they want with the country, and they can govern the country because you have no way, the Nopalese have absolutely no way to oppose that. No way. It's like that. It has been like that for a long period of time already, and it doesn't stop. It will always be like that. And it's where I am much afraid with artificial intelligence and robots. If artificial intelligence take over with the people who have the money who can buy artificial intelligence, not local artificial intelligence, but the big one, you will have everything. The television, the press, everything will go according to what they will want. And the rest can eventually, it will be a society. Have you seen that?
So then there will be less people.
If they don't eat, yeah, there will be less people. But I mean,
We'll solve one problem,
I mean,
right?
we are exactly. The centuries are going on, and we are exactly in the same situation. Thomas More, I quote already Thomas More. Thomas More, say in I believe 1700, he says something. The rich today, they just do what they want. We are centuries ago, and when they get enough money that they get out of the people, when they get enough money, they transform that money into laws. So you can do absolutely nothing against their money. You can do nothing against the 1% who owns everything. You can do nothing.
And you're seeing that happening today.
Exactly, my dear. It's exactly the same thing. I was talking about Athens, and with the Greeks. Why the Athens last only 2 centuries? Because they started to be more powerful, and getting more powerful, they started to monopolize all the countries with someday revolted. They didn't want to give any more money. So, what I'm the most afraid of is the artificial intelligence, because that will govern minds. Thomas More, it was money for just money. But today, all the money is for something else, is to own all the country, and you can own the country with the money. And you can impose everything you want to the country, the way of thinking to your kid. If they watch the television, they have their telephone, they have everything. Everything will be governed by artificial intelligence.
That's where the program started.
Well,
With the military and troops.
yeah. The military is going to be determining what comes onto your phone.
Oh, exactly. But they will possess in some way the military.
And I gotta say,
of course, come on. When you have the money, my dear, if you have the big money, as they have the big money, excuse me, you can do a lot of things.
And I gotta say, Anna. See, I think they want to do that, but I'm not quite sure how successful they will be, because Anna, who's my wife, for folks that don't know, is. She signed up for Nixle. Are you familiar with Nixle? Nixle, you get alerts from like the police and stuff like that on road closures and stuff. She's just about had it with that app, because every day there's 5 or 6 alarms that doesn't affect her. They'll tell her there's a road closed. They don't tell her that the road is open again, or they'll anytime it just rains a little bit, there'll be like a flood alert or a hazardous storm, and it's just like you can see it's half sunny outside. No, it's not going to storm.
But it's where I say that if you possess the head of artificial intelligence, then you will have anything you want on any telephone, any radio, any TV, any whatever it is. You can impose. You can dress the people.
Maybe we could send people the podcast.
Yeah, you can dress the people as you want.
Force
and
them
the
to
children, come on, the children. You have kids, very low, not in their cribs. In their cribs they have, but it's not communicating. But when they are, come on, they start with a telephone. In the cribs they start with a cell phone. The parents give a cell phone to be up to date,
Well, they want them to be immoral people
Yeah.
sooner than later.
Yeah, but so if you possess the thing that gives the information to that telephone, the information can be what they want,
Right.
and that's it, and that's it, and they can turn you to whatever they want. Is that?
Before we get too long with this the podcast, we are supposed to go to the next general rule of the positive
Which was?
dialectic.
I don't even remember which was.
Well, I remember when we left off, it was free education for all,
Yeah,
complete and free education. So we're at the fourth rule. Because I want to get your comments on this before we...
On free education?
no, we're on the next one. Industry, collaboration instead of competition. Goods should be made to last. And respect for all natural resources.
Well, it's a lot of things in 4 words.
Okay? This is your rule.
There is one thing remarkable that you can remark anyway. You buy. Last time I bought a computer.
Computers are the worst. Don't get me started on
Come
that.
on. The guy told me, and it's not the first one who told me that. He told me 2 years, but one told me 1 year. He said, in 1 year, your computer will be a dinosaur. What does that mean? It means that if you want to be up to date, you will buy a computer a year to be up to date, you know. So, in other words,
And they're expensive too.
oh, of course, come on. But it means that the things are not done to last. They are done to disintegrate right away like that. You always buy something new, you make economy. When you look in the dictionary at the word economy means, like my grandmother, that you spend as less as possible, you economize, you don't spend like that. Now, economy now means you spend as much as you can. Yeah, I call that, spend more and you save more. Come on. So you buy a computer, you know that when you buy a computer, it's already a dinosaur.
Well, just imagine if the healthcare industry was like the computer industry. You need a new hip? Oh, your hip is only going to last another year. And they do kind of do that with the pharmaceutical industry. They get you on some kind of drug that you got to take every single day. And whether it's like cholesterol or high blood pressure medication or something like that. Vaccines, which we should probably...
the vaccines, the company, they do what they want, those pharmaceutical company. They sell what they want, but that is what is called today economy, spend as much as you can and build things in such a way that they don't last. So they don't last, you're obliged to rebuy and rebuy and rebuy, and that's what the industry goes on. No, not like that.
Right, so if things are built to last... you're taking care of the earth because you need less resources to...
Exactly, my dear. You need, there is a lot of throwaway things that could last, could be used forever. They are not used because they belong to a thing that will be thrown away in the garbage in 1 year from now. So you have no respect for the raw material of the earth, if you want. You see, I always say something. Oil, we know that oil is something that do not regenerate itself. We have the oil, and what it is, for the rest of the humanity. It is. You have never seen such big cars in the US. They're all big automobiles. Instead of small automobiles, it's big automobiles. And don't tell me that a big automobile doesn't take much more gas than a small automobile.
Well, you bring up a good point because I can't believe the internal combustion engine, which was, well, there's a debate whether it was invented in the U.S. or whether in France. The first automobile was built when? 1800, 1890s or something like that?
Germany, Mercedes and all that, they were among the first. They were not the first one. But the French and American were about the first one.
It's still the same technology running the cars today. What is when people tell you, "Oh, technology runs at such a incredible rapid rate. I don't know. Why? How come cars are?
When you look at the engine of a car of let's say 1935, 1930, even a little
It
older.
was still getting 20
It's-
miles
it's
to a
very-
gallon.
Yeah, and it was very simple. And a very simple. Now you open the thing, you don't know where to look at. It's so complicated that you can touch nothing, absolutely nothing. And once more, when you say question, we know that the oil is something that will never be regenerated. It will never be. So we don't do anything about the oil. We have big automobiles, and don't tell me they don't consume for big automobiles.
And when you talk about building things to last, I'm like, so we live by the canal here on the road. All that effort to build that canal, how long that canal last? Maybe 30 years?
No, I was going to say maximum 50 years. They built a canal to transport, when they started to transport the raw material to make, basically after that, automobiles. I mean, to make steel and things like that. So the barges were cheap comparatively to transport. They allowed to create some factories that were really producing steel and things like that, you know. So the barges could transport for a relatively modest price, a lot of material that before were not transportable. And they allow industry, but they allow industry, and they allow to create the locomotive, and they allow to create, as soon as the locomotive was created, the train took over the barges. The barges do not exist. You walk along the canal, which is a very nice thing, but it lasted usefully for not even 50 years, you know.
And the same with locomotives, even though they still use locomotives today, passenger, they're just completely gone. I got to warn the people that we seem to have lost a light. I guess the batteries ran out. So considering that I started both of these lights at the same time,
Make it last.
I'm not quite sure how long our batteries are going to last on the lights. So we are running a little bit long. Can we continue this conversation next week?
Absolutely, my dear. That will be interesting.
And if folks want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Yeah. Michel Mokers, one word, at gmail.com.
Okay. And you have a website. The website is?
No pennies.
No.
No
Dash
pennies.
Yeah. .com. And people can see some of the documents, see some of the videos that you've made, right?
Yeah, or they can they can have the dialectic of the arts, so they can have all that, you know.
And I just want to thank everybody for listening today, right? We want to hear people's feedback. They can always email us at
Absolutely.
info@Radio Free Will. If you have a question, please leave a question.
We'll be very happy to answer questions.
Yeah. I guess I suppose I should look at YouTube to see if anybody put any comments. You can put comments in there. In any case, info@radiofreewill.org. And I want to thank everybody for listening today. Please subscribe, and we will be with you next week, right?
Absolutely.
And just a quick shout out. You're going to be working at the Sunset Flea Market, which is in Griggstown,
Yeah.
right? That's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, in
and
2
people
weeks.
can come out and they can meet Michelle in person.
Yes.
We'll have more details on that next week.